Hello everyone and welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. So in full disclosure, I am sick, so my voice might sound a little weird. It sounds weird to me. I'm drinking my tea. I have not had a sip yet of it, so let's try it out now. It's roasted in walnut, so I don't know if I like it or not, but I'm helping my throat. So here we are, finally with my wrap up. I was gonna wait, but then my throat just kept staying the same, so here we are. Now, I read 3 books before my mid-month wrap-up, or my mid-month check-in, of which I read The Long Winter by Laura Ingalls Wilder. I gave it 5 stars. I also read, I'm drawing a blank now, I read The Tenant, and I can't remember the name right now of the author, it's right here. I gave it 4 stars. And then I also read Lord Edward Dies by Agatha Christie, and I gave that 5 stars. Really enjoyed all of those books. Now we're getting into the part of the month where I didn't enjoy many of my books. So I fully admitted when I started last time that I was in a reading slump, and that's still somewhat true, but not. I've started kicking out of it. Sorry, I'm gonna need to do this a lot. It was funny because a lot of the comments I got were like, oh, just read something light or reread a favorite, and that's what I was going to do. But my hold came in from the library, and it was really funny how this worked out because my sister and my grandmother, sorry, apparently everything is wrong with me right now. My sister, my grandmother, and I all recently watched a documentary or a news thing about the Cleveland kidnapping cases of Amanda Berry, Gina D'Souza, and Michelle Knight, where they were kept in that house for 10 years. And so my hold came in from the library when I read it, and I picked up Finding Me by Michelle Knight, which is her memoir of what happened, how her life was before, and then her being kidnapped and being held hostage and basically, well, not hostage, but being held in a awful situation for 10 years. She's the first one kidnapped of the girls, and so my sister's currently reading, my sister flew through this, Lise loved this. Well, not loved, but she found it really engrossing, and she's currently in the middle of the other one, the one that Amanda and Gina wrote together, and I will be reading it soonish. But yeah, so this one follows Michelle Knight as she lives her life. It's an awful life. It's a horrible life, what she had to suffer through. And I found myself, I could not put it down. I could not put it down. The horrors that she went through before she was kidnapped, not to mention when she was kidnapped and all that she suffered through. It was heartbreaking. I gave it 5 stars. I think, like, you can tell she's not massively educated, but it's her voice, it's her words, and I could not believe the strength of this woman. So yeah, 5 stars, highly recommend, but very sensitive to subject matter. She does go into some detail, but not much, like, comparatively. So this is massive trigger warnings for anything assault-wise, sexual, verbal, physical, you name it. Miscarriages, anything. Basically, if anything is a problem, be careful going in, but I highly recommend you pick it up because this is the story of a most amazing, brave woman who suffered through immense tragedies and suffering. I can't say it any better. So yeah, highly recommend picking this one up. And actually, since Elise and I have read this one, and she's reading Hope, the other one, and I will be reading Hope, we're going to do a video about our thoughts, comparing the two, and, you know, not maybe comparing, but talking about our thoughts on both books. So that will be coming out soon. I just want to say, pick this one up if you are at all interested. Nonfiction wise, I thought it was great, and this one, at least the library edition, has pictures. I did buy a copy that I can't find right now, and it does not have pictures, but this hardcover one does. So if you're trying to find one with pictures, a hardcover one is a good one to go with. But yeah, so definitely, wow, I didn't love the subject, but I loved her, in spite of it, all the things she suffered through. So the next one that I read, this is going to be a very informal video in case you haven't caught on. Sorry to say that. The next one that I read was, actually, let me just take a sip of my tea. My throat is going to hurt after this. Filming and talking, not fun right now, but I want to do it. So the next one that I read was one that it was recommended to me by Hannah's Books, and it is Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, The Story of Little Women and Why It Still Matters by Annie Boyd Rowe. And this one, I enjoyed parts. The first section, when I last talked about it, I definitely was like, I'm loving it. It's amazing. then I got to the next part and I was like, this is really boring. I really loved how it was following, like, because it's nonfiction about Louisa May Alcott and the book, and I wish I'd been more of that. So the first part is about Louisa May Alcott and her life, and growing up, and how that kind of translated to the book, and how she became an author, and then how that translated into writing children's books. And I found that really fascinating. And then some parts I found fascinating about, the characters, some of the TV stuff, but not really. And then there was a lot of stuff I just didn't care about in here. There were full sections that I should have just skipped. There were things like, I mean, I found it kind of interesting in some ways, but I also was like, this does not need to be, I wish it had been about the writing of Little Women, not how Little Women now impacts audiences. And when I read the title, I had hoped for a book that would be like, this is why Little Women is still a feminist book today. Like, why it still matters today, and not just, oh, this is how generations, like, from the 50s impacted. This how, like, I wanted to know, like, how do the themes that are still present in Little Women show up in our regular lives, and how is that a great book for us to read now? Not what this book was. So I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. The parts I liked, I really liked, and the rest of it I just could have gone without. So, yeah, I forced myself to finish, and it was just, it was not a favorite. I do recommend reading the first 80 pages, maybe a couple sections if you're interested, but I'd be willing to just say don't worry about finishing it if you're not interested in a subject, because it's going to be a whole chapter, and each chapter is about 20 pages minimum. So yeah, I like the idea of this. I just didn't like that it was so much scientific stuff and all of those things. I was like, I just wanted more about the actual events and how it actually translate today, So it was a fail for me, or a miss. But yeah, the other one that I read also was a bit of a miss, bit of tea. And that is Little Men. So this I read for the Louisa May Alcott 2020 read-along. And, this one, I was going to film my complete thoughts on just this book, and then I was filming, and I only had 3 minutes worth of stuff to talk about, so I decided just to put it in here as my general wrap-up. This one, I feel like the first thing that comes to mind about it is that it suffers from middle book syndrome, where it falls flat. Anytime you read a series and the first one's amazing, maybe the second one's amazing too, but like one of the middle books is just like, ugh, it's just filling space. That's what this one felt like. I've watched a lot of people's thoughts on it, and I agree with what almost everyone says. There were way too many characters, and the growth didn't matter in this one, where it was like, okay, so Dan, for example, his growth was important, but it wasn't as impactful as it had been if it would have been Dan as a main character and not an ensemble cast of boys. Nat, I would say, is a main character, but you also don't hear from him much. And genuinely, when Bess was first introduced, I had thought I had missed the section where they had a new girl join the school, because I just was like, oh, there's another kid in the room. I didn't know who that kid was. So it was not bad. I think the writing's beautiful. I think that each story is interesting, but it felt like a short story collection and not a short story collection that has an overarching theme. I don't know. It was very disjointed and very, forced in some ways. And I also, I don't know. It's easy for me to complain about it, and I'm trying not to be too negative, because I did like it. I gave it 3 stars, but it was disappointing. After book 1, which I gave 5 stars to, Little Women, this one definitely let me down. It fell flat, and it's not because it's bad. It's just, I think way too many characters were introduced, way too many developing stories. I could not keep track of the boys half the time. And then with Little Women, I picked it up and I would like, oh, I need to finish this book. I need to read more. I need to read the next chapter. And I could not put it down. This one, I'd read a chapter, I'd put it down for something, and then I'd be like, oh, wait, I should go back to reading Little Men. And it wasn't something where it was like, I need to know what goes on next. It was, oh, wait, I need to get back to that. So yeah, 3 stars. It was okay. It definitely suffers from middle book syndrome, and I didn't like it that much. I did give it 3, so that means it's a good book. It's just disappointing, if you know what I mean. It might even be at this point, it's my most disappointing book of the year. 6 or 7 books in. But yeah, so a real letdown. But I've heard that Joe's Boys is way better than this one, so I'm excited to continue on and pick up Joe's Boys next. Honestly, the throat. Now, the last thing that I did that's bookish related, because I did not read it, I mean, I kind of read a bit of it, but not really. One of my goals was to read or watch a Shakespeare play a month, and I did that. So I have my giant book of Shakespeare here. My parents gave this to me years ago for Christmas. All of these tabs are stories that I have not read or experienced. And so I read The Merry Wives of Windsor, and it was a lot of fun. Let me just see if I can find the picture, because this book, I love how this has like so many pictures. Let me just get it out. Here it is. All right, so this is the Merry Wives of Windsor story, and then every page kind of has more pictures, and I just think they're so fun. So like that. So I watched a play of it online, so I didn't read it. I read some of it so I could keep along with how much I had left, and it was good. It was, I don't know if it was the right way to watch it, where it was a YouTube, like it was a filmed play version of it, and I feel like I kind of might have missed a few things. I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't bad. I might give it more if I were to rewatch it and like not be fogged up in my head. I think I was starting to get sick then, and my brain didn't quite connect all the details, so that was a little disappointing. That my brain let me down, but I know that that's not the play's fault. It was funny in parts, and I thought it was good. I enjoyed the characters. It basically follows, I haven't even told you what Little Men is. Oh, did I? Anyways, my brain. Little Men is about Joe's, like the March sisters, well, the March sisters, Joe after she gets married and has kids and starts school. Anyways, The Merry Wives of Windsor is about this town, obviously Windsor, but these 2 women in this town are playing a joke on a man who is trying to get one of them to have an affair with him. So Mistress Page, I feel like that's the wrong name. So I think it's Mistress Page, and then the other one he's trying to have an affair with. So the name is Mistress Ford. I just looked it up. So Mistress Ford and Mistress Page are friends, and this man, Falstaff, I want to say, he is trying to get Mistress Ford to have an affair with him or to sleep with him. And so Mistress Page and Mistress Ford set up a plan to kind of make it not worth his while. And meanwhile, their husbands don't know anything, and Master Ford, or Ford, I'll call him Ford, he is a very suspicious person of what's going on, especially as he is in communication with Falstaff without Falstaff knowing. And so Falstaff is telling Ford all these details, and Ford is like, wait, that's my wife, without telling him that. And so he is super superstitious suspicious. There we go, suspicious of her husband. Let me start over. He is super suspicious of his wife because he's hearing all of these things from Falstaff that, they're having secret meetings and different ways of escape or whatnot. And because of this, it's an interesting dynamic where he thinks his wife is cheating on him the whole thing, and she's really protecting him and his marriage, and trying to really show this other guy that it's not worth it to cheat, and that she will make him regret coming into the house. So yeah, it was good. I thought it was funny at parts. I laughed, but I also feel like I missed a few details, and I think it would be better on a re-watch or reread. Read or rewatch. So yeah, those are all of the books that I read this month. I will link below my mid-month check-in so you can hear my thoughts more succinctly on the other 3 books that I read. But I read a total of 7 books, if you can count my Shakespeare play, which I'm going to count. And it was good. So I had a decent month overall. I think I actually wrote it down how many pages I read. So for these stats, I'm going to just show you the stats. I'm going to try doing it every month if I remember to show you the stats that I did. This is what I have in my bullet journal. And I am keeping track of the series that I'm trying to finish this year, where I'm getting the books from, the genres, all that kind of stuff, and the page count. So the page count that I read in total in January was 1,975, so almost 2,000. So in regards to genres, and where I got my books and all that stuff, I'll tell you in this section. I got 4 books from the library. I keep saying that. This is like the 3rd time trying to say this sentence. I got 4 books that I previously owned before 2020, and I know I haven't bought any books since 2020 started, but these are books that I owned that were in my personal library. And then I also got one as an ARC, which was The Tenant, and then I had 2 library books, which were Meg, Jo, Beth, and Amy, and Finding Me. Then in regards to genres, I read 2 mysteries/thrillers, which was The Tenant and Lord Edward Dies. I read 2 coming of age, which was The Long Winter and Little Men. And I read 1 comedy, which was The Merry Wives of Windsor. I think that was that. And 2 nonfiction. 2 nonfiction, which it's hard because I don't want to say that's a genre. I feel like that's a type. But that's the genre I've written down here. Then in regards to age ranges, I read 5 adult books, 1 middle grade, which was, I'm calling Little Men middle grade, and then The Long Winter, which was a YA, in my opinion, as Laura is a bit older. So those are my stats for the month. Hopefully I can fill out this square, and every square is 1 book, and each column is a category, whether it be acquired, genre, whatever. So I'm hoping it'll be fun, and I'm hoping that I can keep track of my stats with you guys. So that is my wrap up. I had a decent reading month. Overall, I enjoyed what I read, even if it was a little disappointing in some ways. But yeah, please let me know down below what you read in January, and if it was a new all-time favorite, or if you're a little disappointed by some things, because that's the way life works. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Hopefully I won't be as sick, and I will see you all later. Bye for now.